If you're like me, an intellectual, a connoisseur, then you enjoy the occasional A24 horror film. These films are always looking to break the mold, and there's no doubt their latest attempt will continue that trend, with their latest one-word titled, slow-burn, psychological, borderline art house horror film that acts like an allegory for grief and trauma. MCU formula who? Hello and welcome to the Martini Shot. My name is Brandon, and today I'm going to be reviewing the 2022 horror film Men. But before I do that, let's enjoy the fruits from the tree of the Garden of Eden through a crisp cocktail I've named the Forbidden Fruit. You can't have an allegorical film about men and women without making references to Adam and Eve, right? Well, Men is no different, with apples being a common use of symbolism throughout the film, proving that women will just get blamed for whatever. Yet seeing apples paired alongside the cozy English countryside got me hankering for a fruity fall-style drink. That's where the Forbidden Fruit comes in, taking the refreshingness of apples and giving it a bit of a bite thanks to some added ginger and sweetened with a bit of maple syrup. It's a lovely drink with a bit of complexity, and after seeing a film with a climax like Men, some alcohol will certainly do the mind good. Let's get into it. So jumping straight into the drink, we are going to be stirring this drink since we're not really using any citrusy elements, not really a point of shaking it, so we're just going to be building it straight into the mixing glass right here. So we'll go ahead and start with our main spirit, and we are going to be doing apple brandy, specifically Applejack. This is the more popular apple brandy you'll probably find on the market. Has a nice spice to it, very akin to a whiskey, and I think it's going to make this drink not only have a nice crisp flavor to it, but also really kind of harness that fall English countryside vibe I'm going for with this drink. Go ahead and do 2 ounces. Next, we are going to be doing our creme de cassis made with the black currant or blackcurrant fruit. This is going to add a little bit of a creaminess texture to it, just a little bit, also with a little bit of added flavor to kind of flesh out the complexity of the drink. We are going to do 1/2 ounce. And this is also going to help with the color too. I want it to be kind of akin to an apple, and I think this will kind of shift the color palette of the drink into that direction. Now we are going to be doing a little bit of sweetener, and instead of simple syrup, we are actually going to be using maple syrup. A lot of people don't really know that a lot of people use maple syrup in place of a sweetener in their cocktails. This is going to not only sweeten it, but it also is going to pair right alongside those kind of fallish notes that we're going for. So we are only going to do about 1/2 ounce. And your maple syrup may be a little bit thicker, which means it might take a little bit extra stirring to get it to integrate and dissolve really. If you really do have some issues with it kind of mixing into the drink itself, you can always shake what you have here and then pour it back into the mixing glass. The only reason we're not shaking the entire thing is because we are using some carbonated ingredients, which means it's going to make your shaker pop open. Now we're going to give it a little bit more of a bite using some Angostura bitters. You can use these at your own discretion, but I'm kind of a 3 dashes guy. We are going to do 1.5 ounces of ginger beer. I would recommend getting one with a little bit more bite. I think it's going to pair really well alongside these other flavors and kind of give it that kick that you're looking for. And now to top it off, we are going to finish with 1.5 ounces of a spiced apple cider. This is going to help accentuate the apple notes that already come with the Applejack, but really kind of bring it home. 1.5 ounces and some change. Go ahead and add our ice, and we're going to stir to chill. And now this is going to be served straight up in a nice little coupe glass. And now we are going to garnish this, and we're going to do a nice little orange peel. I think the citrusy notes are not only going to be something that's pleasant on the nose, but it's also going to kind of bring everything together. And I'm going to use the magic of editing so you guys don't see how many attempts this takes, because I'm very bad at peeling an orange with a knife. And as you usually do with an orange peel, You want to go ahead and face the skin towards the drink and give it a little squeeze. That's just going to get the oils that are sitting on there onto the top of the drink, going to help with taste and smell. And then also to kind of accentuate the taste, we're also going to just give it a quick little rim. And then you can either discard it or you can throw it right in. I like to keep it. And yeah, right there is the cocktail, the Forbidden Fruit. Let's go ahead and give that a taste. So the first thing you're going to notice is even with that just little bit of a spritz from the orange peel, you do get a lot of citrusy notes when you're first going in. However, once you get past that, the apple, both from the Applejack and from the apple cider, come right up. It's very, not only crisp, but very refreshing too. And I think a lot of that can be also chalked up to the ginger beer as well. It's a weird mix of refreshing and also kind of warming just because of the elements you have going on here. It's sweetened a little bit with that maple syrup, and the Angostura bitters, which are usually pretty powerful, actually kind of blend really well in here. I think this is a very good drink for kind of any time of the year, any kind of weather you might be having. There's a lot that makes it refreshing, and there's also a lot that makes it warming. Men is the latest film from director Alex Garland, known for his tantalizing and disturbing ventures in the sci-fi genre, with films like Ex Machina and Annihilation. It's the latest installment of distributor A24's collection of horror films produced with art house flair and introspectives into grief and trauma. This time around, a woman named Harper goes to stay in an English country estate after the apparent suicide of her husband. While staying there, she begins to have odd interactions with the men in that town, from the home's owner to the police to a creepy naked guy that follows her out of the woods. Things begin to grow increasingly surreal, turning a relaxing getaway into a full-blown nightmare. Garland is known for his thought-provoking themes involving much of humanity's modern fears, from the rise of artificial intelligence and our own inevitable self-destruction. His films always seem to put women in particular at the forefront of these issues, showing that some of these issues and worries can be universal and transcend genders. However, with his newest film, Men, it cannot be ignored that gender itself is on the chopping block here. The film twists many prevalent issues women face directly from men into a terrifying story of downplaying, gaslighting, and general discomfort. A film with such subject matter is sure to ruffle some feathers, especially those that believe this to be a yes, all men story. I don't necessarily believe that's the case for this film, though. However, I do have some issues with this particular approach to male culture. First, let's talk about the two main performances from Jessie Buckley and Rory Kinnear. Buckley first came under my radar with I'm Thinking of Ending Things, and since then I've actively looked forward to every new performance of hers. As the estranged widow Harper, Buckley is the female experience rolled into a tragic but competent character. She's essentially the looking glass for the viewer to experience the subtle and not so subtle ways women are treated and downplayed in modern culture. The film doesn't make her completely helpless to the fact, but you do begin to realize that even though she's the protagonist of the story, she's not the actual focus. Much like her character in I'm Thinking of Ending Things, Buckley is more of a conduit used as a target for issues centering around the male gender. At least this time around, her character actually has a name. Then we have Rory Kinnear, who plays almost every single man we see in the film, from estate owner Jeffrey to the police chief to a rude boy in a woman mask to that creepy naked guy that covers himself with leaves. Kinnear does a fantastic job portraying all these different characters, yet he's purposefully not a chameleon. It's very apparent his portrayal of these male characters is a deliberate attempt to show the similarities between how men consciously and subconsciously interact with women. Jeffrey is respectful and kind, but there's also an underlying lack of self-awareness when it comes to how he speaks to Harper about her husband and her past. The police officer, on the other hand, shows a noticeable lack of care and urgency to Harper's worry about the naked man that's been stalking her. The boy asks to play hide and seek with Harper, and when she refuses, he resorts to calling her derogatory names. These are all small personifications of the way many men think and act towards women, and Kinnear approaches these encapsulations with both realism and surrealism. This is a horror film that is hinged on its atmosphere rather than more conventional tactics. There's always a sense of dread hanging over the film even when nothing is happening, amplified due in part to suggestive camera work and a hauntingly gothic score. The film is a bit of a slow burn for sure, but it's not without its disturbing imagery. Far beyond the full frontal male nudity, you'll see quite a lot. By the time the film gets to its last 20 minutes, the film goes off the rails in the best, most disgusting way possible. Grotesque bodily manipulation is heavy, creating some of the most uncomfortable scenes I've seen all year. All I'm gonna say is, you better get comfortable with the act of childbirth very quickly. These last minutes are definitely going to divide audiences through both their imagery and their intention, but I found it to be an interesting personification of how certain cultural norms are passed from one generation to another. Now let's talk about what this film is hoping to accomplish, because I do have some concerns over how the general idea of men is presented. And not in a, well, not all men kind of way. My problems mainly come from the fact that Garland doesn't really seem to offer any new or insightful commentary on the subject of how men can treat women. He showcases all the different ways it can happen, but he doesn't exactly delve into the why as much as I was expecting. Truthfully, you can't always give people who actively work to disenfranchise women too many excuses, but it's clear that many of these issues come from a place beyond simple maliciousness. There's societal and generational factors that play a huge part here. And while Garland seems to acknowledge these factors' roles in why many men are the way they are, he doesn't exactly go deeper into dissecting those elements any further than surface-level acknowledgement. Additionally, when a film makes a common issue like this the forefront of its theme, it helps to at least offer some sort of nudge towards a resolution of said issue. And there really isn't much of one here. True, much of it does come down to men themselves to make these changes, but as a male director, Garland could have taken a much clearer stance on what needs to happen to resolve these societal issues. It's one thing to hold a mirror up to society, but this is a reflection that most of the world is already aware of. And I can't say that the way the film presents itself is really going to incite much change. I've always found Garland to be a pretty consistent writer and director, and Men is by no means a complete misstep. It does give insight into societal issues through horrifying imagery and scenarios, and the easy-to-digest message does make this one of his more approachable films. The divisiveness this film is sure to cause will surely, or should I say hopefully, spark meaningful conversation between the many differing sides. I enjoyed myself here, even though I think this is perhaps the weakest of Garland's directorial work. Yet I certainly recommend fans of horror and the A24 aesthetic check this out for an incredibly weird and disgusting time. For my rating, I'm giving this film 3.5 apples out of 5. A substantial appetizer until we get that Cronenberg film later this year. Guys, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of The Martini Shot. If you've seen Men, then I'm sure you have a lot of opinions about it. So please let me know your takes and thoughts in the comments below. And if you like what you saw here and would like to see more, don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow me on all social medias. Those links are down in the description. If you'd like to see more movie reviews and movie-themed cocktails, be sure to check out my website, martinishot.blog. Once again, thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one. Live deliciously, but please remember to drink responsibly.